Hey everyone, welcome. If you're riding long enough, you know it's just a matter of time before you're gonna break a spoke. Well, that's exactly what I have here, but this wheel is special because it was built with bird spokes. So these are the quick steps you need to take to get a wheel like this fixed. And whether you have your wheel built with the amazing bird spokes or steel spokes, the steps that I'm gonna mention in this video are pretty much the same. Obviously, any wheel you have is probably worth fixing. This one in particular because I built this as a 1 kilogram wheel set with Mad Max hubs and Duke rims. This is a wheel set very similar to what Pauline Ferrand-Prévot and Pidcock used to win at the Olympics. These spokes are flexible, but they're actually pretty strong. The only way we could damage this one is by falling on a sharp rock. Yes, we were able to ride the wheel to the trailhead and come home, but the first step in getting this fixed will be removing the tire from the wheel. Then people usually suggest to remove the rim tape completely. In my case, I'm just gonna cut a tiny hole right here where my broken spoke is. If the spoke is completely broken, which this one is not, it's gonna come straight out of the rim. Otherwise, you're gonna have to use a nipple wrench, either this type or the one like this. In this case, I'm gonna also need the bird spoke tool to remove the nipple. Then remove the nipple very carefully, especially if your wheel has washers. Highly recommend to use when building with carbon rims. I've used double square nipples because that's what Bird recommends. Makes it easy to work with it when you have this kind of tool. But if you have standard nipple, I would recommend jamming a Q-tip at the back of it just so you can extract it easily from the rim. This is a straight pull hub, and I did have to use the mini Bird little tools to build this wheel. I just grabbed a little rod with needle pliers. Then you can use the Bird tools to free up that loop and try to pull the spoke out. However, it might be easier just to cut the spoke right here on the end. So don't be afraid to cut that spoke to get it out, but do not throw the pieces away because in step 2 of this process, we're gonna have to find a replacement spoke. Now for Bird spokes, it's probably fairly simple because you either have a Bird build wheel, in which case they know exactly how it was built, or if you build it yourself like I did, you're probably gonna have all the information about those wheels. If you don't know what you have, these are the few types of spokes available. You can have what's called the bladed spokes, the butted, and the ones like the Sapim Leader. These are the cheap spokes that have the same thickness from end to end. Then you have the different ways that the spoke attaches to the hub. Here is that so-called straight pull. Then you have what's called the J-band, and you see the shape of the spoke. And obviously the Bird spoke that can be attached either to straight pull or J-band, or you see this Bird invention, which is the hooked flange hub. This is the most elegant by far when building with Bird spokes. And the next important thing is gonna be the overall length of the spoke you're installing. You don't really need a spoke length gauge. All you need is a ruler that's long enough for your spokes. Put the tip at the start of the ruler and you go all the way to the end, and that's the length. For J-bend spokes, what you're going to measure is from the 90 degrees bend, something like this, and this is a 27.5 wheel spoke, so you see the difference in length. As for the Bird spokes, ask them specifically for what you need. These spoke stretch, so it's a bit harder to measure, but you would measure them in a similar fashion. And that brings us to step 3, which is installing the new spoke. In my case, because I'm using a Bird spoke with that straight pull hub, I need these special tools, but the process is fairly simple. You can see me here just pulling the spoke through the hub, something that would be infinitely easier with the steel spokes. You're gonna have to run the new spoke the same way that the old ones were. This is called over, and then under this third one. And as you get here to the thread, this is where you might want to use some spoke prep of some sort, or if you don't have any of that, just use thick marine grease or linseed oil if you have it. Use that cut Q-tip to push the spoke nipple and then start tightening. Use that bird spoke tool to actually pull on it to get this started. How far down would you tighten this? Well, the beauty of these wheels is that if you look at the flat portion of the spoke right there and relative to the actual nipple, that's going to tell you approximately how much you're going to have to tighten these spokes. And remember that this spoke is going to stretch quite a bit, so you might have to tighten it like this and leave it overnight before you tackle that last step in this process, which would be truing this wheel. Now, if you got this far in my video, I assume truing a wheel is not foreign to you, so I'm not going to cover it in this video, but what I'm going to say is that when building with bird spokes, you got to be mindful of the fact that these are going to stretch. So I would probably true this wheel, leave it overnight, come back and true it again about 3-4 times in a week before I even attempt to patch or reinstall the rim tape, put the tire on, and have this as a usable wheel. That is again because these stretch quite a bit. Once you're done with that initial stretch, once a year, go back and retighten them. I usually do like a quarter turn. I actually have a long-term video on the bird spokes. I'm gonna attach it in the corner. But I'm curious to know if you guys fix your own wheels. Have you ever built with bird spokes? Do you have a spoke wrench in your toolkit? Would you add anything else to my video? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys found this useful, and if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails. Cheers, guys. Cheers.